Now these are 5 simple topics. Okay, so we are not going for complicated topics or extensive topics like the electric current and the Faraday's law, Ampere's law, or the free body diagram. So we are not talking about those topics, but we are talking about in this class are 5 very simple topics. But questions from these topics are very often asked in the NEET, and so they become very scoring, because questions, first of all, they are simple because these are simple topics, and second of all, they are definitely would be asked again. Questions like these based on these topics would definitely be asked again and again in your NEET exam. So here is the first one. Now this is one of the favorite topics. This is the questions based on escape velocity. It is very simple. The escape velocity formula is very simple, and there is just one formula which you typically have to remember in order to solve these problems. And last year, for example, there were a couple of problems just based on this one formula, the escape velocity formula. So definitely don't miss this. The second, again, one of the most favorite topics, and again, simple topic. Okay, so we are only going through simple topics. We are not talking about other things in the current and electricity and the magnetism electromagnetism. We are only talking about this simple topics that are commonly asked. So this is one of the things, the formula for resistance in terms of resistivity. So this is very often asked in your exam. The main thing here is that sometimes they will ask you to calculate the resistance directly, but most of the times what they would ask is, if the resistivity increases by this much, if the length increases by this much, if the volume remains the same but the area is changed, then what happens? So questions like this, where there is a relative change in the length, in the dimensions of the wire, or there is a relative change in the value of resistivity due to the temperature, and you have been asked that by how much time the resistance would increase. So those questions are again one of the favorites for the NEET exam. Again, we are not talking about other things that are there in the ray optics, but we are only talking about the Snell's law. We are not talking about the Lenz formula. I'm sure you would have covered those, but what I'm saying is that don't miss this topic, don't miss the Snell's law, because questions on this would be very simple. Typically you would be given the refractive index of the medium, and you would be asked to calculate probably the sine of one of the angles, or just the angles would be given, and you would be asked to calculate the relative refractive index, things like that. Okay, just based on this formula, this one formula, questions would be asked, and they would be very simple. The next very common topic is the conservation of energy. Now when we talk about the Newton's laws, the force and the motion, we typically forget that lot of those problems, the projectile motion, a lot of those problems can actually be solved very simply by using conservation of energy. You can of course draw free body diagrams, you can do all those vector calculations that you want, but sometimes it is simpler to just use the conservation of energy and come up with the final answer. So don't miss this topic, definitely practice this particular topic, conservation of energy. And again, it is very simple because there are two kinds of energy which are involved. We know that one is the mgh, and the second is the kinetic energy, half mv square, and the total energy is conserved through some transformation. So this is an example question which came in the last year. So again, one of the favorites. Now the last thing, which is again one of the favorites for the NEET, is the parallel plate capacitor and all the things related to it. Okay, so you can expect a question based on this, or maybe a couple of questions even. And again, as we have discussed, so these are the formulas that you need to remember for the parallel plate capacitor. I hope you understand and you know those by now, but if you don't worry, we'll cover them. Subscribe to our channel and we'll cover them slowly and gradually. But the main thing here is, again, the questions are of two types. One is that how much would the capacitance increase if I increase the area of the plates, if I double the area of the plates, if I increase the distance between the plates. Okay, so those things can be asked either absolutely, you could be asked to calculate the absolute value of capacitance, or you could be asked that how much would, by what factor would the capacitance increase or decrease. So the relative values become really important. Again, the dielectric breakdown voltage and the maximum amount of energy stored, which is given by the last formula that we have there, those things become important, and we have covered in our classes on doorstep tutor. So if you are not sure about these, then definitely you can visit that. But practice these questions, they are very scoring, less mathematics involved, and very less chance of making any kinds of mistakes. There is no vector, there are no signs here. Okay, so those are important. Now other things which are important are like I said, it's not saying that other topics are not asked. Like for example, dimension analysis, one question is definitely there. One question on vector calculations, like dot product of vector, the cross product, those things again become important. So one question would definitely come from there. But those are complicated, slightly complicated topics. Questions on these topics are simple. So you are sure to score if you have solved a couple of numericals on these. Okay, thank you very much.